Hey everyone, welcome back to Reading with Tatiana. Today I'm doing my book review on Book Lovers by Emily Henry, and I gave this book a 4 out of 5. Before I go into my full review, I always like to do my Booktuber Shoutout. So my Booktuber Shoutout today is Alana Estelle. I will link her channel down below. She just started her Booktube a few months ago, and I love her book reviews because she has a mic and has this kind of like podcast, very intimate feel. So if you want to check out her channel, again, I'll link her Booktube down below. As always, before I go into my full review, I will always appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button, if you give this video a thumbs up, and if you read this book, I'd love to hear what you thought about Book Lovers. This book, Book Lovers by Emily Henry, it was written in 2022, so it's a very recent release. I would say that it's positioned to be one of the books of the summer because I've seen it everywhere being blown out. And I was just really lucky that my library had it in the new feature section. There's like dozens of copies. And the genre I would put this book in is romance in books, but I'm not sure, because I'm a new booktuber, I'm not sure if you can have this category yet, but I would personally actually put this book specifically in a rom-com, kind of like a movie. A bit about the author, Emily Henry. She is from Cincinnati in the United States, and she studied creative writing in college. She is now a full-time writer and a proofreader. Her debut young adult novel was back in 2016, and it was called Love That Split the World. And in 2020, she broke, I think, adult fiction because I saw her name everywhere with her unique book titles. Her debut adult novel was back in 2020 when it was prime pandemic, and it was called Beach Read. Personally, I think her publisher or her agency does a great job picking authors. I've seen Beach Read and People We Meet on Vacation every summer, and right now with Book Lovers, it's also a very catchy title. So whatever her team is doing, they're doing a great job. A bit about the story Book Lovers. So we meet our protagonist Nora, and she lives in New York City as a literary agent. She's very type A, she always has checklists, and she always knows exactly what to do. She has been burned by several exes where for some whatever reason, work makes them go to a small town for a project or a massive layoff. And when they come back to New York City, they tell Nora they've met someone in that small town, and they leave Nora for this small town girl. So this novel kind of talks about what happens to that woman that man left back in the big city. So we see kind of the villain side of the story and what happens to her. And I love the story because there's lots of tropes that happen in romantic movies and romantic novels, and it clearly identifies them and still happens, and it's just very comedic, and I think it's really worth reading. That is a bit about the premise of the book. And how the story gets going is Libby, who is Nora's sister, who's like 5 months pregnant, wants to have a month-long sister vacation to Sunshine Falls, which is the setting of Nora's top writer's book. And they go there and have a bunch of bucket list items to check off, like, pet a horse, do something crazy, like save a small town business and that kind of stuff. So Nora and Libby go to Sunshine Falls, and little do we know at the coffee shop that Nora meets her arch nemesis, Charlie. So we kind of see like, oh, what will happen between Charlie and Nora because they hate each other. But as I kind of said before, this book kind of talks about romantic tropes, so you can kind of guess at this point that they fall in love, but we have no idea how that happens. And to add to that, my favorite part about the book, like I mentioned earlier, they use lots of romantic tropes that they use in movies and books. And they mention it at the very beginning of the book, actually, that even though sometimes they don't know how the book is going to end, so in this case, we can assume that Charlie and Nora will fall in love, we still want to know how they get there and how the characters grow to become that. So even though she kind of spoils the book right at the beginning, it's still really good writing and gets you drawn in to figure out how it happens. I kind of already touched on the main characters. There's Nora, the protagonist. There's Libby, the sister. There's Charlie, the arch nemesis / lover. And because it is in Sunshine Falls, which is a small town, there's a cast of characters that are very comical and very typical of a rom-com small town. And I don't want to go into all of them, but I just love the cast of characters in the book. Common themes I noticed in the book, one that really resonated with me was the line that maybe it's possible to belong in 100 different ways to 100 different people and places. Nora really struggles between New York City and the small town, and at one point she kind of finds solace in that, you don't have to be stagnant, you don't have to just stay in one place all the time, and it's okay to have your heart in 2 places or your mind in 2 places. So that lesson really stuck with me because I felt that way because I've lived in multiple cities and countries as well. Other common theme that I really enjoyed in the book is, even though this is a romantic novel slash comedy, it really focuses on Libby and Nora's sister relationship and how the sister relationship is just as important, if not more important, than romantic relationships. And I really enjoyed that, even though I don't have a sister. I have a brother, and the relationship isn't exactly the same as a sister-sister, but I really enjoyed that the book really divided the importance of both relationships. Other common theme that Emily Henry put out in the book is that they have a romantic trope of lots of these like perfect romantic men in novels and movies and stuff, and then also like how sometimes the person you ended up with isn't that, and it's okay. Like not everyone ends up with Chris Hemsworth or Chris Evans, but sometimes what you end up with is even better. Some things I really enjoyed in the book I already mentioned is that they acknowledge a lot of common romance tropes and they still happen anyways, but the way they did it was really comedic. And I know there's definitely a romance category, and I would say it's almost even a comedic category as well, kind of like a rom-com movie. Another aspect I really enjoyed about the book, as I mentioned before, was a sister-sister relationship, because I find that novels usually, when it's romance, focuses just on that, but it had a huge emphasis on that relationship was just equally as important, if not more. And the final thing that I really enjoyed about the book, to add on to the romantic tropes acknowledgement, is that even though it was a book format, it almost had this fourth wall breaking that happens in TV shows. So I really enjoyed that just because of that like humor and that it was breaking the fourth wall, or I guess in this case the second wall from the book. On Goodreads, this book got an average of 4.43 out of 5, which is very high for Goodreads. I do have to say that this book just came out this year though, so I do feel it's very trendy right now, that maybe in a few years the ratings will fall. So just keep that in mind when you see the 4.43 rating. However, I do feel if a Goodreads book is a 4 or higher on average, it's probably a solid read. The two most common reasons that people didn't like the book was that they felt it had too many romantic tropes, but I think people that thought that maybe just didn't see the humor in that. The second reason that people didn't like the book that I saw was that they felt all the characters weren't fleshed out enough, which I can see as well, but because the book isn't like that serious, I feel like that's okay. I also know Colleen Hoover is a very popular writer right now. I actually have not read any of her books yet because I'm on hold at the library for like number 500, 400. But Colleen Hoover also gave this book a 5 out of 5, which I think is a great review. There were lots of long-term friends of Emily Henry because she has also written 2 other breakout novels since 2020, and there were huge fans. They gave 5 out of 5s. They weren't disappointed. It lived up to the hype. People enjoyed the sister-sister relationship, and people also really enjoyed the banter between Nora and Charlie, her arch nemesis, because they found that it was very realistic and relatable to them as well. Number one reason why I think you should read this book is if you love rom-coms or romance, this is the book for you. It was super easy to read, it was super fun, and it was also very entertaining. Now I'll share how this book lovers made me feel, because as always, if you ask me in a week, a month, a year from now, I won't remember what the book was really about or maybe the characters, but I'll always remember how a book made me feel when I finished it. So Book Lovers by Emily Henry, it made me feel very passionate about love, not just in a romantic way, but just in the sister way, which I don't have a sister, but with my family and friends, and just that it's so important to invest in these relationships because that's all you got in life, you know what I mean? At the end of your life, when you're on your deathbed, you may think about your career, you may think about things you accomplished, but what you'll really think about is people that had a big impact on your life and also the impact you had on theirs. That is my book review. Thanks for staying until the end. If you enjoyed my review, please give this video a thumbs up. I also love to hear what you think, and if you can hit the subscribe button, that would be great as well. And if you want to join me for my next book, I'm reading True Biz with my book club by Sara Novic. It is a Reese Witherspoon book club book, and it's pretty good so far. It's about a deaf school, and there's a bit of drama that's happening, and it's really neat because so far they also put like sign language throughout the book as well. Thanks for watching it till the end, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.